The state's Pollution Advisory Committee is in Newcastle today, and one of the places they visited was Blackbutt Lookout. With me is Dr. Cummins, who's the chairman of this committee. Tell me, Doctor, how is it that it's taken your committee so long to visit Newcastle, which must surely be one of the pollution centres of New South Wales?
Well, it's taken us quite a time to come here as a committee, but that doesn't mean that many members of the committee are not familiar with Newcastle or Newcastle's problem. Generally speaking, with committees of this nature, which are advisory and which are drawn from a wide representation, it's difficult to organise that they should actually visit spots and survey the actual area themselves. This is done by our officers, and we rely upon individual members of the committee being familiar with these particular areas. But we did feel that, particularly in relation to Newcastle, that so much has been done by so many firms in cooperation in trying to reduce the air pollution problem, and as this is one of the most important industrial cities of the Commonwealth, and as there is new development now occurring, particularly heavy industrial development, that we should, in particular, try and get as many members of the committee to get a general topographical knowledge of Newcastle, as well as the areas where industrial development is going to take place.
Well, a lot of residents of Newcastle will tell you that the air here is as polluted as it ever has been. What has been done in Newcastle?
Well, I don't think this statement is correct, although I can well understand the reason why it's made. I think one tends to look at what's there, and one tends to forget what was there and has now disappeared. And there are at least two large polluters of the past who no longer pollute significantly at all. But one tends to forget that this has been a considerable improvement from those firms. The policy of the government, and of course of the Air Pollution Advisory Committee, has been to try and engage the cooperation of industry to tackle the problems as they occur, and we realise that with a city as large as this and with industry as large as this is a fairly long-range project. And yet there has been very significant decrease in the number of days of haze in Newcastle. This may not be appreciated by the average individual looking at one source of pollution which is obvious, but there has been a very significant decrease in this. There has been a really significant decrease in the amount of grit fallout. And with the coming dieselisation of the railways, with the bridge to Stockton, other areas of pollution will disappear, and these are some of the most obvious areas of pollution, and they will start to disappear.
I was about to ask about these. It's all very well tying pollution down to private or public companies, but what about the state government with its harbour ferries, its Hunter River ferries and its railways? These are probably the two largest pollutants in Newcastle right now.
Yes, this may be so. But if we extend a reasonable latitude and a reasonable attitude to private industry, surely it's reasonable enough to do this and treat government on the same level. But we do have fairly firm assurances of specific timetables when these problems will disappear.
The Premier said today, only today, that there will be no further extensions, and these pollutants must disappear within 6 months.
Well, I'm not certain whether some of them will disappear within 6 months, but I am given to understand that a firm assurance that complete dieselisation will take place within 12 months, and probably will within 12 months, so that the target of 6 months may well be met.
Are you entirely satisfied that as an advisory committee you're really getting anywhere? Whether you advise something or not, does it take place?
In general terms, it does take place. We use the technique of advisory committees, which advises someone. In this instance, it advises the government.
Are they bound to take action on your advice?
They're not bound to take action, but...
Well, do they?
In general terms, yes. I can't recollect specific instances of major nuisances where our advice has not been accepted.
Is this Is it fair to say that Newcastle is doing well by comparison with the rest of the country?
I think Newcastle is doing quite well as a large industrial city. I think it's doing as well, perhaps even a little better in many aspects than Port Kembla, for example. I think it's doing much better than its counterpart in England, which is also a heavy industrial city of this nature. And I think that there will be a continuous improvement, but I don't think that you get spectacular improvements in these very large industrial cities.
Do you think that being thrown out of the council meeting achieves anything?
Well, we hope that it achieves what we aim to, and that is to bring to public notice through the press and other means the way that this whole matter has been handled by the council and authorities.
Well, until last night you'd been strictly formal and strictly legal about this. Why change your tactics?
Well, we had approached every department, including DCA, in the correct manner, and the council, in the correct manner. They had all given us an assurance that no flying could take place, no constructions or buildings were allowed, and up to this stage, Mr. Smith informed us on Monday night that he, within 3 weeks, would have another 1,000 feet of strip down. At the moment he is accepting twin-engine aircraft, and we believe this could lead to anything. And we're not satisfied that enough has been done to slow down his operations.
Well, having been thrown out of council once, what's your next step?
Well, we haven't really got any set plans. We intend to see if the council do act on their own decision and make sure that his buildings are torn down, and to see if DCA act to see that his flying operations are stopped.
And if they're not?
Well, we have a fairly strong committee at the moment, and we believe that we'll just have to take further action until proper methods are achieved.
Well, I saw a splash in the water, and when we got up close, we could see there was an elderly lady in the river. And when it come into the gangway door, well, I sang out to my deckhand to give me a hand with her, see if we can get hold of her. And he went down the side of the boat, stripped off, and then we gave him a rope.
Gary, wasn't
Yes,
it?
that was Gary, yes.
And here's Gary Hyde. What actually happened, Gary, after the skipper yelled out to you?
Well, I took my shoes and my coat off and ran down the back of the boat, and he handed me a rope. I put it over me and just jumped into the water and grabbed hold of her and dragged her across the other ferry, and they gave me a hand up and we dragged her up onto the deck.
Was there a strong current running at the time?
Oh, there was a bit of an eddy, not very much.
Are you a good swimmer, Gary?
Though I wouldn't say I was a good swimmer.
The police have commended you for your action last night.
Oh, well, it's anything anybody else would do.
Well, there has been a squeeze, as you know, not as severe here as in other cities throughout Australia. Normally in April, May and June, lending is restricted. This is seasonal, a little more severe than in previous years, but generally not as severe as perhaps we've been led to believe.
Mr Turnbull, what of July?
July, well, this is really staggering. So far, and the month doesn't end until tomorrow, we've given loan applications out to the extent of $2 million.
And how does that compare with last year's July?
This is an increase of 75% on last year's figures.
Now, the 3 months you mentioned, April, May and June, the recession that was experienced in this period, just how bad was it experienced as far as the building trade is concerned?
Well, generally throughout Australia, I think it was fairly severe. To what extent, I wouldn't know really, but the scarcity of funds, particularly in the home finance field, must have had some marked effect.
What about here in Newcastle?
I would say not as bad here as in other cities.
And the future now looks what?
Well, I think it looks excellent. This is an excellent start, and I don't see any reason why it won't be maintained.
polo cross, a very big sport in the Hunter Valley, and shortly there'll be a big competition. And with me is one of Australia's leading polo cross players, Paul Goodwin. How are you, Paul?
How are you now?
Paul, could you tell me something about the event that's coming on?
Yes, we're holding a carnival here at Bradley Park, Rutherford, on the 1st and 2nd of August. It'll be for A grade, B grade, and mixed and men's competition.
Now, you say mixed. This includes ladies in the team, does it?
Yes, this is made up of a team of 3 ladies and 3 men.
Now, this is a pretty strong sport, this polo cross. It's amazing that the ladies are so good at it.
Oh yes, well there's quite a few ladies I think will hold their own with the men in any part of the state.
And where are the teams coming from, Paul?
Oh, we've got some coming from down at Bowral, we've got teams from out west, we've got Dunedoo coming, we've got a strong mixed team from Rydal coming across, and quite a fair representation from about the metropolitan area.
Now, the art of polo cross, could you tell us something about it?
Well, briefly, it's a game played with a squash racket head on a longer handle with a net, and the ball is carried in the net. The aim mainly is, well, to score goals and defend more or less like any team sport.
And how long does a game last?
Game lasts, it varies. Elimination matches are 4 chukkers of 8 minutes, and finals are played 8 chukkers.
Now, the conditioning of horses is very important. What do you do to condition a horse?
Oh, well, a horse has got to be very well conditioned. They're grain-fed, clipped, and essential to have a lot of work put into a horse, because a horse is a major part of this game.
And is it by match practice that they get trained, or by just riding them round?
Oh, well, they started off by road work, but they finished off with match practice and taken away, sort of rounded off in competition games.
And how many horses during a match may you use?
Each player's only allowed 1 horse.
1 horse. So they've got to be in really good condition.
Oh, really good condition.
Now, your team has had the privilege of being the winners last year, is that right, Paul?
That's right, we won both the A-grade men's and the A-grade mixed here at the carnival last year.
And do you expect to do well this year?
Oh, well, I feel our team's right at their top. It depends how strong the opposition is.
Now, talking about opposition, you play elsewhere. How would the opposition be?
Well, we're expecting very strong representation at this carnival, and I feel that it's going to be pretty hard to win here.
Where else is polo cross played?
Oh, it's played pretty well Australia-wide.
Have you ever travelled playing elsewhere, Paul?
Oh yes, I've played in Queensland and I've played in Victoria.
Yeah, so it's a pretty good sport, and not an expensive sport, say such as polo.
No, well, the expense in polo comes in where you've got 4 horses, where this game you've only got 1 horse to feed and travel about, makes it a lot cheaper.
Paul, these are some of the trophies that you'll be playing for, but what is the main one?
The main trophy is the Pat Reynolds Memorial Trophy for A-grade men's, and we've got a big trophy also for the A-grade mixed.
Well, Paul, every success for your team on the big day at Rutherford when it comes along. It will be a crowd-pleasing day, and I'm sure anybody that is not interested perhaps in polo cross, if they came up to Rutherford and watched this match, I'm sure they'll be entertained. Thank you very much for the interview, Paul.
Thank you, Noel.